Well, welcome everyone to tonight's event. It's good to see you all. This is the second in a 6-part series of community conversations. We call it Your Watershed. 2 months ago, roughly in July, mid-July, we talked about water as a topic. Tonight's topic is recreation. The format is the same as the water event. In mid-November, the next topic that we're going to cover, also here, same format, will be fire. When you look outside and see all the smoke, I guess that's probably timely. My name is Gannon. I'm the director of the Crook River Watershed Council here in Prineville. We are co-hosting the series with Oregon Wild. It's supported by a Facebook grant and several other local sponsors, including Grocery Outlet that supplied most of the food in the back. So we do want to thank them and acknowledge their support. The event is basically a tonight's program is a 2-part session. The first part will be really presentations from our featured speakers. They will cover recreation from their organization's perspective. That includes the local Crook County Parks and Rec District, state parks, Oregon State Parks, and the U.S. Bureau of Land Management, who runs a lot of campgrounds and trails in the watershed. We also have a comment table, or we call it a feedback table. It's located over here to my left. And if you have any ideas about the series, about future events, future topics you'd like to see us take on, or if you'd just like to suggest some change in the room, we are open for suggestions. We are looking to constantly improve the series as we go through the 6-part events. These are not meant to be sort of controversial or anything like that. These are really, at their basic core, information sharing and providing information to the community. So if you came tonight with some sort of axe to grind, let's say, for example, probably a good idea to hold those comments to a better venue, maybe a better time when those would be fielded in a different venue, different forum. So with that, I'd like to invite our featured guests up to present some short overviews for their organizations and what they do in recreation. We're going to start with Crook County Parks and Rec, and then we're going to have state parks go next, and then we'll end with the BLM. So with that, I would invite our special guests to come on up to the table. We will take some questions after all the presenters are finished, and then we'll move into the second part of the program, which is really an open forum where you can continue to visit with the different table presenters, ask questions, maybe get some free gifts to take home as well. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Carol. Thank you very much.
Crook County Parks and Recreation District is a special taxing district, and what that means is that the boundary of that, I should say, is really just the city limits and the urban growth boundary and a little bit of land outside of that. It is not the entire county, despite our name. And so we're really only have about a little over half of the population of Crook County actually pays into support parks and recreation. The district was formed in 1983 when the population was just about 14,000 people, and now, of course, we're at 25,000 people, and so there has been, quite a bit of growth, and a lot of that growth has been up like Juniper Canyon, which is outside of the boundary. And by the way, also all but one of the buildings up on the hill, the Facebook and the Apple buildings, are also not in the district right now. So, and I mention this is because our population has grown quite a bit, but our tax base really hasn't grown. So we kind of run our district on a shoestring, but we do that also with a lot of great partners. We have the city of Prineville and our foundation. We have service groups like Kiwanis and the Lions and Rotary Club also help us quite a bit, and a lot of the local businesses. We just couldn't do it without them. We have a special relationship with the city of Prineville. They help us out a lot with both their staffing and also their equipment, and we have actually written a comprehensive plan with them. And that comprehensive plan identified about 4 major areas for us to work on. So reinvesting and renewing and replacing our aging facilities, preserving our natural parks and connecting our community with trails, promoting healthy lifestyles and accommodating changing population needs, and maintaining our infrastructure. And then also the state of Oregon Parks and Recreation District, they have also written a comprehensive plan, and they identified for the Crook County area that people really want more restrooms. They also want indoor spaces for classes and sports, a more connected and safe community trail system, and land acquisition, particularly natural areas and water access. So currently, what we do is we manage 13 parks and 3 campgrounds. We have outdoor swimming pool that's open about 3 months a year. We have a skate park, a bike park, dog parks, pickleball courts, lots of different types of ball fields, and a gym. We also borrow and maintain fields from the school districts for many of our programming. We do the day-to-day management on the paved Ochoco Creek trail system, the lower and upper mountain bike and hiking trails. We partner with CODA. We have a very active youth program. Right now we have over 1,000 young people who are currently enrolled in our soccer and basketball programs and such. We have life enrichment programs like arts and theater. We do hunter safety, and we also have some adult programming, which is getting started after COVID again. We host events like Music in the Park, the 4th of July, craft fair, and also Santa's Workshop. So right now, what are we really working on? We're working on a number of big projects, and one of them is to replace our children's playground. Right now, we have Juniper Street Creation Station, I believe is the official name of it. Lots of people call it different things, Castle Park. But it is a timber structure. It is over 30 years old. The lifespan of those things is supposed to be about 20 years, but we've done a good job of keeping it up, so we think we'll get another 10 years out of it, but it does need to be replaced. So we're currently working, and our very first project is going to be a harmony park, which is going to be basically percussion type instruments that people will be able to play, both adult type instruments that people can actually play together, and then a whole bunch of like whimsical little things like butterflies and flowers and drums, of course. You have to have drums that the kids can bang on and learn about music. The second thing that we're also working on right now is shade structure. And the Kiwanis Club has taken that on, and that'll be in between the splash pad and the gazebo. And also, the third thing that we're working on is the little kids or the toddlers playground. And right now, we're just currently in the fundraising phase of that. We get the money to do these things mostly through grants and through other organizations. Very little of the money actually ends up coming from Parks and Recs because we just simply can't afford it. But like I said, we got great partners. Another exciting thing that we have going is we have a brand new park, the 12th Street Sea Hale area came up for sale last year, and we were able to use our SDC fees to purchase those properties, and we're currently fundraising so that we can do a restoration plan and also a park design. We want to make it into a natural park. If you've got ideas of what you would like to see out there, we'd love to hear from you, and part of that planning process will, of course, be a very robust public involvement program because we want it to be something that people will really enjoy. So stop by the table if you want more information about that. And then also just kind of out maybe 5 years from now, the things that the big projects that we're going to be working on is we need to upgrade our electric system out at the County RV Park. It is currently a fuse system, and it also has very, very poor Wi-Fi out there, so we want to upgrade that. And of course, the really big thing is our pool. Our pool is like a 1950s variety swimming pool. Its pump and filtering system is getting really, really old. We have invested a lot of what I call lipstick on the pig kind of projects, where we have done a lot of patching and a lot of paint and renovation of the fitting or the changing area. But quite frankly, the system itself is is very old, it's failing, and even the sewer, we have to roto-root the pipes at least 2, 3 times, 4 times a year just to keep it, the sewer from backing up into the fitting area. We do have a changing population. Over a quarter of our population is 65 years and older, and having a new pool would be, I think, really important. And unfortunately, right now, we can't afford the cost of the maintenance. We could probably get a bond passed to build it, but we can't afford to maintain it. So that rolls us right back into the issue of funding and the need to get more entities or more people to be paying into our tax base. We call that annexation, and those of you who've been in Crook County for a while, you know that we've tried this twice in the past, and both times it has failed. So we are taking a very cautious approach to it because we don't want to fail again. And anyhow, that is what we're up to, and if you have questions, you can ask them after these other folks have talked, and then also come to my table.
Thank you very much, Carol. We're going to now, thank you. We're going to now hear from Chris. He works at the state parks, Oregon State Parks.
Thank you. So yeah, my name is Chris Gerdes. I am the park manager at Prineville Reservoir State Park. I've been there for about a year now, a little bit better than that. I've worked in parks or in recreation now for going on 21 years. So you see a lot of things change during that time in recreation. So that's kind of my history with parks. I've seen county parks, state parks, city parks. So as everybody knows, we're kind of in a situation where motorized recreation has been a little depleted this year. We only have 11% up in the reservoir. I know that they've ratcheted that back. I don't think the CFS, or cubic feet per second, has reduced coming out of the dam, but it's supposed to reduce down to 10 for those of you that saw the KTVZ article on the news. So recreational opportunities, though, we still have plenty. We still have trails. We still have lots of wildlife viewing. We have the pelicans. We have obviously owls. We have the dark sky. We're an international dark sky park, so that's really handy for us. And being able to kind of key in on some astrotourism that folks are really interested in. People are really interested in things that are far away and the various things that you can see at night at various times of the evening. So we're just trying to really key in on that and expand our interpretation programs and keying in the adults, but as well as the kids, because they're really the future coming out to parks and recreating. So we really got to key in and see what keeps us relevant. And I think that's a big one for us, is keeping things relevant for everyone. We're more of a land manager in this area. We don't really own a whole lot. We own the lower 66 mountain bike area, as well as the Ochiko viewpoint. But everything beyond that is Bureau of Reclamation owned, and we manage. So that's a really good partnership that we have with them, and it's served us well, and we're trying to expand and, again, improve the ability and our accessibility to gaining access to the water. We don't have any control over the water, so just in case anybody was wondering, why don't you stop the water from going out? I don't have any control over that. But we do have the control over creating good experiences for folks. So that's our real focus, is trying to get people out there, trying to remind them that there's more than just the water. I mean, we had the motorized for a very short period of time this year, then we had non-motorized. Now the water's so low, it's really difficult to get your non-motorized boats in the water. You kind of have to wade through some mud a little bit. So just the water table and the dirt are basically at the same level. So that makes it entertaining. If you want to attempt it, go for it. I know I got stuck a little bit the other day, and so that my shoes are still dirty from it. Some of the things that we're looking at towards the future, again, we're still looking at doing the improvements with the International Dark Sky Association. So that means reducing our light pollution and trying to spread the word about light pollution and trying to just really encourage folks because it affects all of the wildlife and everything as well. And so we really want to make sure that everybody understands why that is. Some good takeaways from it is you're probably going to be using less power. You're probably going to have better experiences. It means you're going to see more of the dark sky. It means you're going to see more wildlife probably around your house, which is kind of enjoyable. So that's one of the things that we're going to continue to improve within the park and try to do more outreach to the schools and such to, again, kind of spread that word. Other elements that we're doing is we are working on trying to bring the resort property back to life. I know I constantly get asked about that. And so right now we're trying to do infrastructure management and just trying to make sure that we're kind of making things shovel ready and not, setting ourselves up for failure. So not having septic systems that work properly, not having potable systems that can sustain through the heat and the cold that this environment has. Upgrading the power system, that's a big one for us right now. We're going to have to add a whole lot more meters to manage the system better. But I think with that, making it that it's a more enjoyable experience. So maybe not having so many sites in there where people are packed in like sardines. We're kind of looking along the lines of maybe reducing the sites, maybe adding some cabins. There's still the motel there. We've been utilizing some of that stuff for staff housing this year, and it's worked out great because, as everybody knows, housing is really expensive, and it's hard to help people with recreation if you don't have people to help them and to keep those facilities really clean. So as an agency, that's kind of where we're going as far as in our local area. Over the next 10 to 12 years, we're going to be inputting a lot of resources, financial resources, into that resort property. But again, trying to make sure that it's sustainable as well as relevant to any visitors that may come in the future. So that means, looking at doing 50 amp services, things of that sort. So we want to make it ourselves as accessible as possible. Also potentially adding some kayak and canoe launching facilities, because I think non-motorized is probably going to be more sustainable for us than the motorized. So when we do have the water that's really high, then it's going to be great, right? We're going to have a lot of variety for folks. So that's really what we have going on with parks. It hasn't affected us a lot in the realm of visitation, other than Jasper Campground, which has pretty much been sitting at around 2 to 11% of occupancy. But everything else has been staying actually pretty busy. Cabins are staying full. The RV sites are usually sitting about 85 to 90, depending on the weekend. Tent sites are probably the ones that had the biggest hit, and those are sitting at more like 60 to 70%. So that's where we're at. Just still want to encourage people to come out, and if you have questions after everybody else is done speaking, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
My name's Kyle Hensley. I'm an assistant field manager here in Prineville for the Bureau of Land Management. We have 2 offices in Prineville: the Deschutes Field office, which is the west side, which includes the Crooked River, most of it, not all of it, and then the Central Oregon Field office. So my counterpart and I, Nick Weber, will talk a little bit about recreation opportunities on BLM land. I'm going to give a little background for those of you who don't know. I mean, if you've ever looked at the map, you've seen BLM land scattered around, right? Lots of it. Different parts and pieces. There might be a 40-acre here surrounded by private. There might be a big block. BLM land, if you look back through time, was considered the leftover stuff, the leftover junk, right? Throughout history of this part of the world, people didn't want it. It was the desert. It was the canyons that you couldn't farm or run cows. So that's how the government kept it. The state of Oregon decided they didn't want it when they became a state. So here we are, years later. Some of the things that go with that is that we don't have a lot of the real strict rules and mission that like state parks does, the Forest Service does, Fish and Wildlife, etc. We're really, When you look at our mission, it's multiple use. Whether it's putting a solar farm or a campground or somebody grazing or somebody that just wants everything to be pristine and leave it alone, that's our mission, and that's what we have to deal with. So it's pretty challenging, right? Everybody has their finger in the pie of how things are supposed to work. So recreation for us, I mean, everybody here probably has seen everything from ATVs driving, bebopping through an 80-acre BLM parcel where you think, wow, is there supposed to be recreation there? Are they supposed to do that? Or horseback riding, or trails, or, I mean, you name it, what can be done on BLM lands. Since we're talking about the Crooked River watershed here, we're going to focus on really two main areas. And that would be the lower Crooked. You know, as we all know, you drive right out here and you drive right up it, and you run into a series of BLM campgrounds and day use areas. Nick's going to talk a little bit about that. And then as we get further up, BLM still has land that maybe a lot of people don't even know about. And there are some opportunities for recreation there that we don't really advertise because of what it is, but there are no restrictions there for you deciding, I'm going to hop off this cliff right here and go down in that canyon. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick now and let him run with it.
All right, thanks, Kyle. So yeah, Kyle talked about we have two areas we're going to focus on here, and it kind of ties into that multiple use thing that Kyle was talking about, even within recreation. So the lower Crooked, just down the highway here, is more of a developed area. We have 9 developed campgrounds, 2 day use areas. We have a designated trail and a trailhead. It's a state scenic bikeway along that corridor, backcountry byway. So there's a lot for everybody there. Along with that, we also have dispersed areas along there. People go, fly fishing is huge down there. There's even a little bit of hunting. There's rock climbing. There's just about anything you can think of we find here in the Prineville district, and you'll see it down there. Now, the other area that Kyle was talking about is the North Fork of the Crooked, and that is a little bit different than what you find down on the Lower Crooked. It's more of more remote. It's the BLM land or BLM managed land there was designated as a wilderness study area, so the North Fork wilderness study area is there, which comes with different restrictions on what you can do. You can climb down the mountain down to the canyon, as long as you're on foot. And so it's really about two different types of experiences. The Lower Crooked, pack up the camper, bring the family down, grill some hot dogs, have the dog run around, kind of your typical outdoor experience that you think of when you take the family camping. Whereas the North Fork, it's more remote. It's more for people seeking more solitude and more of just a different recreation experience. Hunting, fishing, wildlife viewing, stargazing, more of the non-developed stuff you'll see there. Let's see, and so moving forward in the future, the Lower Crooked River, we have some plans to make improvements down there. The Chimney Rock recreation site, it's probably one of our most popular ones down there. We got the fishing pier. We're currently working on a plan right now to redesign that. It'll be redoing the campsites, the campground, and making things a little more accessible. It's kind of a big focus of that project is accessibility, opening up to more people. We also, have lots of great partners that we work with. State parks. We help manage one of the campgrounds down there for them, and just there's fly fisher, or Oregon fly fisher I can't think of the acronym right now. But there's plenty of other groups that work with us and help us to manage these areas and maintain these experiences for everybody. Do you have anything else?
I can talk a little bit more about the Lower Creek. One of the things you'll see over the next 5 to 10 years is a change on what the Lower Crooked River looks like in terms of the BLM campgrounds and BLM areas. We're putting a lot of long-term focus on not necessarily making it like park-like, because that's not what we are, but to really try to upgrade, make sure the picnic tables, you aren't getting a sliver in your butt when you're sliding across one of the wood picnic tables. Making sure that, like Nick talked about, the accessibility. That's a fantastic area to make sure we have disabled access in some of these places, to make it more open for the rest of us. The signage, things like that are going to change. With that, we all know what's happened for recreation in this country. I mean, since even before COVID, but definitely since COVID, the use has skyrocketed, right? And so that's one of the things we work with, making sure we stay on top of the garbage that people tend to dump. Making sure that people stay where they're supposed to be. It's pretty simple in the Lower Crooked River because it's a canyon and they can't really go anywhere. But this spring we got to float a large disposable couch, apparently somebody thought it was, as they pushed it off the cliff, and it ended up in the water, so we actually floated it down on a raft to get it out of there. But that's just, every one of us, land managers, those of us who deal with being out on the ground, and especially with recreation, are seeing this massive increase in people who want to get outside, which we all want that, right? We should all spend more time outside. None of us probably does enough. But with that comes a lot of challenges, and we all have to just work through them. Anything else, Dick? That's good. All right.
So as promised, we have time for a handful of questions. Well, I guess I have a quick question for state parks, Chris. What are the total numbers per year of visitors on average? At Prineville, I guess.
So as far as the properties go, yeah, you want me to use mic? Okay, so as far as the properties go that we manage, we've been sitting close to about the 500,000 mark, and that includes some of the campers as well as day use. We're sitting at about 46,000 as far as overnight camper nights. So we're definitely lower than that this year, but we're still hanging in there. So we're still getting some pretty good visitation. We're trying to expand it. Again, accessibility I think is going to be key for us, and I think us opening up and getting the resort property into a functional state will make a big difference with that.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes, sir, please.
Can't see me through the forest here.
Camouflaged, yeah.
Social Security Beach, to the gentleman from the state parks. The closure of Social Security Beach, temporary or permanent, or what's going to happen there?
If you wouldn't mind repeating the question.
So he was asking about Social Security Beach and whether the closure is permanent or temporary. It is permanent if the water level stays below 26%. As soon as it opens up and gets higher than that, then we'll go ahead and move the blocks out of the way, because then our rock delineators that we have on either side will do their job to keep people in the location that they're supposed to be. So it's meant to be temporary, but that's kind of out of our control as far as the water levels. But it's helping to protect some of the natural and historic features that are there, as well as just for safety. I mean, people, when they go out there, they get stuck. And if you get stuck on a hot day, you could put yourself in a bad place really quick. So we're really just doing it. I know it was super unpopular. I get that. But yeah, the idea was for it to be temporary. We'll still keep some of the blocks in place, so that if we have to do another closure, later in the season, as if the water level really drops low, we can put them back in place fairly quickly. But overall, the idea is we want it to be as accessible as possible.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
For the BLM, with the lower crooked section there, do you plan on keeping that open during the low flows that we're going to be seeing? Is that going to have any change on you guys' operations down there and allowing folks to recreate down that lower crooked reach?
Right. We won't have any changes there. We're much less regulated than most agencies, and considering we don't have heavy rafting or anything on the river, it's just we won't make any changes.
We will commence on to the next part of the program, which is really more casual, informal. Please get up, move around, mix it up, so to speak, with all the presenters that are here tonight. Ask questions, get your answers, and just have a good time. Thank you all for coming again. We really appreciate it. And thanks again to Facebook for sponsoring the series.